Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a This Is Not a Top 10. And if I sound a little hoarse and under the weather, I guess shaking all those hands in Houston kind of did me in. And so I'm fighting the good fight. But if I do sound a little bit hoarse, I do apologize. I may have to stick a lozenge in just to keep going today. But we're going to make this happen because this is a fantastic idea. It was actually recommended to me by somebody who wrote me on Parfumo. So shout out to you. You know who you are. And they said, hey man, been watching your channel. And I think it would be great if you did a This Is Not a Top 10 Rosewood video. And I thought that's a fantastic idea. There's only so many ingredients. I've knocked out most of them already. If you're interested in watching some of the previous episodes, I've put out a ton of content in the last year. You can go onto my playlist, go to This Is Not a Top 10, and you'll see there's 50 plus videos on the different notes we've done the videos on, which this particular series focuses on individual notes. So today it's going to be Rosewood. Now, Rosewood, I've told this story before, but Rosewood has a very special meaning to me because growing up as a little kid, my mother always used to make us pray the rosary on Easter, which is coming up very soon, actually. And, you know, she got these rosary beads from the Holy Land, and the rosary beads were made out of rosewood. And rosewood kind of has this sweet, woody, fruity, sometimes maybe floral aroma. Sometimes it can even be peppery. And it can also, you know, almost have this pink-like smell to me. Obviously, rosewood. I think about things like pink roses and stuff like that. But it also has these woody facets, which are usually associated with masculine perfumery. There's a lot of vintage masculines that use rosewood, and I'll talk about some of those today. However, it's not only masculine perfumery. There's also a lot of beautiful feminine fragrances in this list that use rosewood. So it just adds this, I think, air of majestic quality to the fragrance, in my opinion. But first, I want to talk about a very kind act by one of my subscribers. I don't know if he wants to remain anonymous. I forgot to ask him, so I'm just going to leave him anonymous. But thank you very much. You know who you are. He sent me a couple things, and at first, this may look like a decant of Journey Man, which I have a full bottle of, but it's actually not. It is a decant of the new Initio fragrance called Paragon. And Paragon came out last year, and he said, hey man, I want to get your thoughts on it. I said, send it on. I'll be glad to talk about it one of these days. If you send me something, please be patient. You can see all of these up here are samples. So it's going to go into the queue, and at some point, you know, we'll do a video on Paragon. But Paragon is supposed to be this fruity, creamy, you know, fragrance with lavender and plum and oud. I'm really not an Initio fan, but he said this one isn't as disgustingly sweet as some Initios, so he thought I might like it. And then he sent me this, which came, I don't know if this is just kind of, I think this is just a packaging, but inside there are, well, first there's a packing peanut, and then there are 4 samples. So one is Oud for Greatness. I told him I would review Oud for Greatness soon. Oh God, I hate this fragrance. I hate Oud for Greatness. It's one of my most hated fragrances of all time. And he sent me a Parfums de Marly called Shagya, S-H-A-G-Y-A. I'm not familiar with this one. S-H-A-G-Y-A, Shagya. Woody, spicy Parfum de Marly with oud, bergamot, pink pepper, geranium, papyrus, and musk. I've never smelled that one. So that'll be one to do an early impression video on one day. He also sent me Haltane by Parfums de Marly. And Haltane's another one that I've never smelled. I've heard about it, but I've actually never smelled Haltane. I think it was a Harrods exclusive that came out a couple years ago. Clary sage, lavender, bergamot, saffron, praline, cedarwood, elderwood. I have no clue what that is. Musk, oud, patchouli, leather, and vetiver. And some people say Haltane actually is a better version of Oud for Greatness. I don't know. I'm not a fan of that DNA, but I will give it a shot, and I'll do a video on it. And if I have to bash it, I'll bash it. And then he also sent me Rehab, which he said is the least Initio fragrance. He said, this one I may like it. If you're going to like any Initio, it may be this or Paragon. But I'll do videos on them. I'm open to do a video on anything. Lavender, musk, sandalwood, bergamot, black pepper, cedarwood, and patchouli. Okay, so those are the decants. Thank you very much, my friend. I will hopefully do some videos on these very soon for you. And okay, so let's get on with the video. First, let's do scent of the day, as is customary. Scent of the day is a Bortnikoff today. I've been in an oud mood lately, and I wore Mysterious Oud today. And let me tell you, I've had this bottle for almost 2 years, and look how little of a dent I've put in it. You know, this is 2 years worth of use. And this is just, oh, I've just been absolutely loving this. I mean, I think this is only the 3rd or 4th time I've worn this. I can't remember. I keep track of all my wears personally, but it's gotten better the more air has opened up into the bottle. I've appreciated it more. It's basically, there's the note listing if you want to kind of pause it and read the note listing. But there is bergamot, cardamom, amber shimama, which is kind of like this attar-like amber, and orange with rose hybrida, jasmine, cinnamon, clove, myrrh, castoreum, pink pepper, nutmeg, tonka bean, and then oud roots, wild Vietnam, oud hindi, oud trat, sandalwood 100K, which is sandalwood I think that him and Dimitri Russian Atom distilled together. Tolu balsam, apopanax, cedarwood, lotus, labdanum, and vanilla. And I have just been, oh man, this ambery, you know, almost like a Middle Eastern style take on like a old school Oriental. You know, think of opium or you know, something like that. But imagine like a real oud style with those kind of spicy, ambery, woody accords. Just fantastic. Loved every second of wearing this today. Okay, so let's get started. This is going to be in alphabetical order. Remember, this is not a ranked list. I will one day come back and probably rank this list because I've been going back to my Not a Top 10 and Perfumers Portfolio videos and stuff like that and actually doing rankings. So this is unranked. So I just put them in alphabetical order, basically, just to prove that one is not, you know, better or worse, in my opinion, than the final one. But one day I will come back and actually rank this video. People tend to like to see the ranking. So let's get started. The first one is going to be a Bertrand Duchefort, which I have a couple of his creations coming in the mail very soon. I can't wait. But this is Dia Man. Probably one of the most underrated. Look at the dent I've put in this. I love wearing Dia Man to work, especially in the heat. Oh, it's so, you know, it's so Bertrand Duchefort. It's just, he's a magician. He's a master with these ingredients, how he weaves everything together. Cardamom, frankincense, labdanum, bitter orange, plum blossom, peony. One of probably the best peony fragrance I've ever smelled, ever. Hands down, no question about it. With ylang ylang, iris, and then a base of vetiver. And you will get that vetiver note in here. Not very many Amouages have a very prominent vetiver. You will get a vetiver in this with Brazilian rosewood in the base, amber, leather, and patchouli. Just, I mean, class in a bottle. You know, you wear this and you are instantly the classiest guy in the room as far as I'm concerned. I did a early impression video on an Amouage that I would like a full bottle of one day, but this is called Ubar. And Ubar is a woman's fragrance that came out in 2009. It's discontinued. There was actually an older version, but this version is from 2009, and it's kind of Amouage's take on a floral, you know, look at the packaging. It almost looks like sand, right? Ubar is supposedly rumored to be a city that got swallowed up by the desert because the inhabitants became so rich. The inhabitants became so rich that they became evil. And the rumor is that God allowed the desert to swallow them up. And archaeologists have actually found what they think is the city, which was a frankincense kind of trading hub back in the day. And they think what ended up happening is that the king of Ubar ended up building this giant temple on almost like a sinkhole. So whenever he put all this weight in this one area, it literally collapsed into the desert and the city was kind of ruined. and you know, ancient people took that as God allowed them to be the desert to swallow them up, which you could look at it that way, I guess. However, that's the thing about faith, is when you have faith, you can believe whatever you believe and no one can say you're wrong. But modern archaeologists think that that is actually what ended up happening. It's just the ground that they built it on was just unstable. But Ubar is full bottle worthy for sure. It's just expensive, but maybe I can find a partial one day. Okay, next on the list is going to be an Aramis fragrance. And this is Bernard Chant, one of my favorite perfumers of all time. This is from 1973, and this is Aramis 900. So this is the vintage herbal cologne spray bottle. And rumor is that the whole Aramis Gentleman's collection is discontinued, although Parfumo keeps showing them as available. But if you ever find them, even the newer bottles, Aramis does a great job with, you know, reinterpreting the fragrances. I would go for it. I would grab it. If you found it at a cheap price, even in the newer bottle, go for it, because rumor is that they're going to be completely discontinued. Aramis 900 is basically, in my opinion, so it's a rose, you know, Bernard Chant has this way of making a chypre like no one else, in my opinion. And he uses these aldehydes and all of these accords, these spicy, woody accords, mossy, oak mossy, but the big thing about this is the civet. It's a big rose civet fragrance, and it's just divine. And again, you can see how little I've used. This is a very strong fragrance. Aramis 900. The Rosewood's in the top, by the way. Okay, next on the list is a Raymond Chaillan creation. And he actually created two fragrances in 1971 that I think are almost like sisters to each other, or brothers, since these are masculine offerings. They're almost like brothers. And the first one we're going to talk about is from the house of Balenciaga, and it's called Ho Hang. So this is one I would love a bigger backup of. Amouage found me this small little tester from back in the day. It is divine. You know, this type of fragrance, this kind of citrus heavy, you know, vintage fragrance from back in the day is not my favorite type of style, this citrusy chypre thing. But I've learned that when you mix it with notes like rosewood, and in this case, a little bit of heft in the base, so it's not this light, ethereal, airy fragrance. There is a heavy focus on the lemony, citrusy, minty opening, you know, bergamot, citruses in the opening. Almost smells slightly aldehydic, but what they've ended up doing is they've kind of weighed it down with this heavier base, labdanum, benzoin, tonka bean, and vanilla, and they put rosewood, pelargonium, cedar, and patchouli in the heart. And so I would much rather wear this over Chanel's Pour Monsieur or Dior's Eau Sauvage, just my opinion. If I was going to wear this style, I would take this over those two, or you could even add Rochas Moustache into the equation. I would take Ho Hang, or the one that is coming up as well. It's brother fragrance from 1971 as well. Ho Hang is a little bit of a unicorn, but if you like that style, it could be one of the greatest fragrances ever as far as you're concerned. Okay, next on the list is a niche fragrance from a house I don't really care for, actually. I'm still trying to let it grow on me. I need to spray this more and try to get to know it and decide whether I'm going to keep it or not. It's from the house of Bogue, and it's called MEM. So MEM is an animalic floral. There's castoreum, which I usually like, but the thing about it is that animalic floral bit is a challenging fragrance here. There's a lot of notes like champaca and jasmine grandiflorum and ylang ylang and damask rose and bourbon geranium and, you know, all of these lily of the valley, you know, these type of big floral notes. But the civet, the castoreum, the lavender, aldehydes kind of makes it a little bit of a tough wear for me. There is the rosewood, of course. There's laurel. Something comes across very minty, pepperminty in the opening too. It's a weird combination. And, you know, you could say this is a very artistic fragrance, but I'm not the biggest fan of this guy's work, Antonio Gardoni. No offense. I know people absolutely love him. What I've smelled from the house of Bogue, I'm not the biggest fan of. But he did a fragrance for zoologists called T-Rex. And I think T-Rex might be my favorite Antonio Gardoni fragrance. I've got a 10 ml Discovery Atomizer. That actually may be enough for me. Okay, next on the list is a Calvin Klein, and this is called Obsession. Obsession for Men, one of the biggest hits, smash hits of the 80s. 1986 this came out. The original vintage said Cologne Spray on the front. I don't know if you can make that out. You probably can. Cologne Spray. And then it went to... And you know, this is a Calvin Klein Cosmetics. I thought if it was a Calvin Klein Cosmetics, it was a first run. No, it has to say Cologne Spray. Then the Eau de Toilette came out under Calvin Klein Cosmetics. Then it just kind of went from there. But this is a Oriental, spicy, musky. You know, the big thing about this is this vanillic, powdery, musky with the civet and that animalic growl, you know, of the 80s. This powdery, orangey, spicy Oriental. There's myrrh in here. There's clove. There's jasmine, nutmeg, pine, rosewoods in the heart with cinnamon, coriander, lavender, mandarin orange, bergamot, grapefruit, lime. There's red berries, sage. So there's very few differences between Obsession for Men and Obsession for women. I think the red berries and the sage are two differences, if memory serves. Maybe even the pine. And then there's amber, musk, vanilla, patchouli, sandalwood, and vetiver in the base. And man, I will wear that to bed sometimes, and it's just like a mind-blowing experience. I've been wearing a lot of oud to bed lately. You know, some of the actual oud oils that Russian Adam sent me, but that's also a great bedtime scent. Okay, next on the list we have a fragrance from the house of Caron, and this goes all the way back to 1934, if I'm not mistaken. When did this come out? Yes, 1934. And this is called Caron's Pour un Homme. Now, I have to give a confession here. If you go look at Parfumo, you'll actually see that there's no rosewood note listed. But I went and I checked, just to show you guys how seriously I take this hobby. I checked base notes. And if you go to base notes and you pull up Caron Pour un Homme from 1934, you will actually see that there is a rosewood note listed here. You could smell, almost like you could smell like there could potentially be. It's not as prominent as some of the others. What this is mostly about is, lavender and vanilla, okay? That combination of lavender and vanilla is kind of what makes Pour un Homme what it is. And most people think lavender is purple. It's not. It's actually green. If you can find this bottle, I've told this to some of my subscribers and they reported back they got it. It's fantastic. If you can find this bottle, get it. Don't get the new one. Get this one. They almost tweaked this, I think, to the tastes of people in the 70s and 80s because it's more animalic. There's this animalic, musky civet note that tends to come through. Makes it much more interesting. And if you read articles from the owner of Caron, he claims that the original formula hasn't changed since it came out in 1934 from what they're issuing now. And that may be true, but this smells different to me. So maybe the one they're issuing now was the same one from 1934, but this is different from what they're issuing now, in my opinion. It smells different to me. This smells much more animal. This smells also much smoother. The new one smells almost like clashes, you know? This one doesn't. It's fantastic. Okay, next on the list we have a Cartier, and this is called Pasha de Cartier from 1992. This is a classic fougere, spicy, woody. There's a beautiful herbal, kind of minty thyme opening with lavender, mandarin orange, alyssum, Brazilian rosewood, coriander, patchouli, oak moss, sandalwood, and labdanum in the base. So if you're a fan of like classic fougères, the original Pasha de Cartier Eau de Toilette from 1992 is beautiful. And apparently, this is supposed to be a pen, a Cartier pen. Just in case you were wondering. Some people say that it's supposed to be the dial of a watch, but I think it's supposed to be a pen. Okay. Next on the list, we have a Chanel, and this is going to be Cristalle Eau de Parfum. So Cristalle is a little bit of a challenge for me to wear. I'm glad I have it for the scent armory, but I'll tell you what. So what I do is I kind of just decant it into this atomizer, and then you can just spray away. And this is a 4.2 ounce, so you can just spray away and let it go, and then just refill it when you want to. This is this green, fresh Chanel take on green and fresh. You know, if you know how number 19 is done, I think I prefer I know I prefer number 19 to Cristalle. But Cristalle has this peachy, almost, I mean, I love Chanel's presentations though, just so classy. And this is an older bottle. You can tell by, how can you tell? I forgot. I'm sure there's a way, but maybe it's the 80 proof volume on the back. Maybe it's kind of the batch code down on the bottom right there. But this is a cold green floral. You know, this would smell amazing on a professional woman who is the boss. You know, a boss bitch. This would smell amazing on a boss bitch. Oh, you know, Chanel does iris like very few people can do, right? And there's this green, cold, almost smoky, almost like, you know, you went out after work. Like, imagine being dressed in your finest clothes, right? You have a meeting with the most important people you could meet with for your job or whatever it is, and you have that meeting and everything goes fantastic. You're dressed to the nines and you decide, you know what, let's go celebrate, let's go out. And you go out and you have some drinks, and this is back when you could smoke, right, in the 90s. And there's this kind of stale smoke in the air with oak moss and vetiver, and it's very cold and off-putting. And maybe you're there, and you know, somebody walks up to the finely dressed woman that you're there at the establishment with and tries to hit on her, and she just shuts it down, right? Just cold-blooded shuts it down. Oh, that's what this kind of gives me images of. You know, a very smart, very successful, but almost cold, professional woman, but beautiful fragrance. I don't know if I need a full 125 mils of this, but I am glad to have it. So yes. Sorry, let me stand these decants up that are falling on me. Okay, next on the list. By the way, the Brazilian Rosewood's in the heart with hyacinth and iris and jasmine, and peach and citruses are in the top of Cristalle. Okay, next on the list is another Chanel, and this is Egoiste. Now, Egoiste is one of the greatest sandalwood fragrances ever, full stop. The original Egoiste, I really feel like I could wear any time of the year. I know some people say, oh, this is a cold weather fragrance. Not for me. I could wear Egoiste in the summer. I could wear it in spring. I could wear it in fall. I could wear it in winter. But for winter, they have one called the Cologne Concentré. And this one actually has stole my heart. The Cologne Concentré, the way Rich Mitch describes it is actually quite good. He says it's just like Egoiste, but it's more. And it's true. The note listing is exactly the same. It came out in 1992, and this is back before they used to do eau de parfum. So they used to call, you know, more intense versions of things like the Cologne Concentré or Parfum de Toilette, or, you know, they each house had their own kind of verbiage. Chanel's was the Cologne Concentré. And so you kind of get everything you get in Egoiste. You get the mahogany wood, the coriander, the cinnamon, the carnation, the rose, the sandalwood, and this is outrageous. The tobacco, the vanilla, the amber, the leather. This is, if I rank this video, these, whether it's the Cologne Concentré or whether it's Egoiste, could easily come in number one. This is one of the best rosewood notes I've ever smelled, ever. It is so fantastically, elegantly done, in my opinion. The spicy, woody aspects, just a little bit of this ambery, vanillic sweetness in the base, just enough for people to call it a winter fragrance. Probably the Cologne Concentré is. It's much thicker and heavier and deeper. And Amouage found me this 75 mil splash, which I just decant, and you know, you wear it whenever you want. But the original is quite nice. In fact, even the new one, the one with the black atomizer instead of the silver, although look at the color difference. Don't tell me that hasn't been reformulated. This is still quite nice. It doesn't last as long, but I can easily recommend. You can just, Chanel's one of those houses that if you just want to go, if you're not someone that wants to go hunt vintages, if that's not your thing, like it's mine, and you just want to go to your local Chanel counter, give them your credit card and say, I want a bottle of Antaeus, I want a bottle of Egoiste, I want a bottle of Bois d'Azil, I want a bottle, and you can just go do that and have absolutely no fear that you're getting an inferior product. I mean, is it exactly what it was when it came out? No. But is it inferior? No, I don't think it is. I think it's a well-made fragrance. I have no problem wearing the modern version of Egoiste. It's just, you're going to have to reapply a little bit more. Instead of the amazing longevity that lasts forever, a little bit of depth is missing, and you probably have to reapply every 5 or 6 hours. For me, I would reapply every 5 hours. Okay, next on the list, we have one of my favorite fragrances of all time, and also what I would consider one of the best rosewood notes in perfumery, and this is called Zeno. And you will get that rosewood right from the first spray. You're going to get rosewood with lavender. Oh, fuck, man. It is, I have 3 bottles of this, and it is absolutely 3 bottle worthy. It's 3 bottle worthy. Not just backup bottle. This is 3 bottle worthy. I think this is Michel Almerac's greatest creation. It set off a spark. It set off a trend. I mean, you think about something like Beau de Jour that Tom Ford put out. It's based on this. You know, this is what motivated Tom Ford to put out Beau de Jour. And the rose just kind of like creeps into, it's this dark, dense, thick, you know, almost like a rose that challenges you in not the sense like challenges you like, oh, it's hard to wear, but almost like a challenge, like my 3-year-old challenges me when I tell her to do something and she looks me in the face and says, no, you know, that's kind of the way that the rose feels in this. Like it won't bend to your will. You know, the rose in this is outstanding, but the biggest, I think, just, you know, accomplishment, if you will, is the way that they implemented that Tonka vanilla, ambery, almost Guerlain-like DNA. There's a beautiful article on Fragrantica about Zeno, about how they used the base of Shalimar, that Guerlainade base of Shalimar with the vanilla and Tonka and all that stuff with the woods and the patchouli. Well, I don't know if Shalimar has patchouli, but that vanilla Tonka amber thing that Guerlain does so well, this does have patchouli in the base. Beautiful patchouli, by the way. And they use that as like a springboard to create this scent. And then Guerlain ended up creating a scent to me that smells very much like Zeno in 1992, Guerlain's Heritage, which is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. But it was this that set it off. Apparently there's I bought a partial today, actually, of a fragrance called Free Life by Aigner. Aigner came out in '87, 1 year after this. Some people say there's a little bit of Zeno in Aigner's Free Life. Some people say there's a little bit of Zeno in Escada Porom. Some people say there's a little bit of Zeno in YSL Jazz. You can see the, you know, how this really, everything kind of revolved around this for a little bit. This DNA. This was like the center of the solar system back then. And what a fragrance, man. Now, it is currently still being marketed by Coty. I would urge you to go get the vintage Lancaster bottles if you can. That's my opinion. The Coty versions are still good. They're just a little bit thin. Okay. Next on the list, we've got a Dior. And I went in the attic recently and hunted down my boxes. So I hope you guys appreciate seeing the boxes as well. It was a bitch to pull them all out. Also, it's not as easy because now the boxes have to go kind of on the sides when this is open. So I have to close them, pull them out, and then open it again. It's more work for me is what it is. But someone was asking about seeing the boxes. I don't have boxes for everything, obviously, but the ones that I thought were cool, the vintage boxes, I pulled out. Like this. This is Dior's Dune for women. 1991. One of the greatest perfumers of all time created this. Jean-Louis Suizac, one of my all-time favorites, maybe even my favorite. And so this is Dior's Dune for women, and this is aldehydes, Brazilian rosewood, mandarin orange, bergamot, peony. Again, if anything is going to challenge peony as far as Dia Man for the greatest peony fragrance, it very well could be Dior's Dune, in my opinion. Although there is a peony note in L'Artisan Parfumeur's Zonka, and that's again Bertrand Duchefort. But yeah, this is actually very woody for a feminine fragrance. There's a lot of woody notes. You get a beautiful sandalwood, and that Brazilian rosewood again hits you right from the beginning, but it's tempered by that peony and aldehydes, and the aldehydes mixed with the florals, you know, to give it kind of this, it cuts the woody notes down a little bit, but it dries down kind of musky and floral, and this oriental kind of base, this warmth of benzoin and ambergris and vanilla and patchouli. Great fragrance, totally underrated. Very few people talk about it anymore. I think it's still available, although I have no clue what the current version of this is in. I actually have no clue what the version of that I'm holding is, to be honest with you. I don't know anything about Dune reformulations. 1991. There's actually no ingredient list on this at all, which is interesting to me. There's zero ingredient list on this. So I guess you can probably tell by the address. 33 Ave. I think maybe the older ones were 30. I can't remember, but there is something to do with the address. But yes, Dior's Dune is definitely one. If you're kind of like me and you'll go anywhere in the fragrance world, Dune is one to put on the list. There are some feminine fragrances that you just almost have to own, like Opium by YSL. I put Dior Dune on that list. This is totally underrated. And you know what? When I wear this, I'll tell you, I've only worn it to bed. I haven't worn it as my scent of the day yet. There's only so many days. You got to kind of save your favorites for your scent of the day. But when I wear this to bed, I almost get a little bit of like a wisp of incense in this. It's very strange. You can almost trick yourself into thinking this is a Bertrand Duchefort creation. But very, very good stuff. Okay. Speaking of very good stuff, and speaking of, this version is discontinued, by the way, and I pulled this packaging out just for you guys. Look at this packaging. This is the original Poison, the Esprit de Parfum, and how just, I don't know if you can tell, but this is like padded, like soft, padded packaging. Let's see what the address is on this one. And there's the short ingredient list for you. This is the vintage Esprit de Parfum. Yeah, see, 30. This one's 30 Avenue instead of 33. This is the older address. Okay, anyway, mystery solved. Let me show you this beauty. Look at this. I mean, if you're a fragrance lover, that will give you chills. Look how beautiful that is. And the fragrance is just as beautiful. It's a little hard for me to wear. Again, I usually don't wear this as my scent of the day. This is usually like a nighttime, sprayed on before bed and just zone out. God. Oh, that honey, like, you know, that berry, honey, orangey, rosewood. Again, rosewood and plum in the opening. But the tuberose in this is one of the best tuberose. This may be the best tuberose. When I rank this is not a top 10 tuberose, this very well will probably be number 1, or very close to number 1, in my opinion. And what makes it, again, is this oriental style. It was competing with Opium. So they added a lot of Apopanax and myrrh and, you know, vanilla and amber and stuff like that. And I love that. I love the Play-Doh-y resinous kind of base with that honey. You know, if you like the way that the 80s honey fragrances were done with things like Boss Number 1 or Tenere by Paco Rabanne, or, you know, that kind of thing, check out Poison. It is, yes, it's feminine, but if you're like me and you kind of go anywhere, that's another must-have. Just even as a reference, it's fantastic. Okay, next on the list is a decant, and I have a video on this on the channel, actually. And it's before I bought my full bottle of EO #1. So I actually smelled this first, and then I smelled EO #1. So I kind of went about it backwards. But this is Ensar Oud's EO #1 Assam. So this is a flanker of the original EO #1. And I do really like this. I'm not going to lie. This DNA is actually my favorite, I think, of all of the Ensars I've tried. Now, I've yet to try EO #3. I would love to try, I would just absolutely love to try, you know, Oud Mustafa or Royal, I forget what he calls them, but he's got a couple Ouds that I would just die to try because I'm turning into a little bit of an Oud head all of a sudden. Oud Mustafa, what was the other one? Borneo Zen, I think, was another one. And he had EO #3 and EO #4 I would love to smell. But I thought he had a Santal that I kind of honed in on. What was it called? He has a lot of fragrances. I'm just realizing how many he has. Holy shit. Sorry, I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I'm already committed. So there's no going back now. Let's see if it's under S. Oud Royale. I think it was Oud Royale. Could have been Oud Sultan or Sultan Oud or Oud. I think it was Oud Royale. But Oud Royale, Oud Mustafa, those kind of, you know, I would love to smell those one day. Anyways, back to EO #1. And the reason that of all the Ensars I've tried, and if you actually go to my channel, I have videos for someone that doesn't have but one Ensar. I have a lot of videos on Ensar because people have sent me a couple things. And I've really enjoyed what I tried. Yeah, Oud Royale was one of them. Oud Sultan or Oud Sultani or something like that. But anyways, long story short is I tried a lot of them. And I thought they were all very good, very well done. I could see myself wearing all of them. But I want more. So I have, what I mean by that is this. He is all about, this is how the oud smells, and I don't want to touch anything else. I don't even want to soak the oud because I don't want to mess it up, right? I don't want to, well, not mess it up, but I don't want to change the way it smells. If you soak it, it changes how it smells. I want to present to you the oud as if it came, the soul of the oud is in this little bottle, right, of the oud, of the tree. And I can appreciate that. And I think he's true to his word. I think he's very expensive, but I think he's true to his word. I think he's honest, and I would love to smell more of his stuff. It's just so expensive. But people have sent me a couple things, like Jungle Kinam, I think was one, and I have videos. If you go to my Ensar playlist, you'll see a couple of them. Well, this is one of them that I did. And I think as a leather lover, Ensar EO1, which is the leather one, is the one that's closest to my heart because it really focuses on that leather note. He turned up the castoreum, but there's other things going on in here. So there's a little bit of this smoky frankincense-like vibe. There's tobacco. There's a Oud. There's cypress from the island. I believe it's a Fiji cypress, if I'm not mistaken. There's Tolu balsam. There's civet. There's multiple types of rose in here. Indian rose, Turkish rose, jasmine, Austrian rose. There's real ambergris in the top. And what it smells like is it smells like kind of a sparkly ambergris leather. Okay, that's kind of what it smells like, a smoky, slightly oudy ambergris leather. And ambergris adds this sparkle to it, right? So imagine if you had a leather that sparkles. And that's kind of what EO #1 smells like to me. I, again, have that illness from Russian, like Russian Adam says, we have an illness where we always want more. We want more oud, more civet, more castoreum, more smoke, more animalics. And every time I wear this, I think, wow, you know, not this particular one, but you can go check out what I thought about it on my video. But even when I wear the regular EO #1, and there is Rosewood in the top, of course, that's why it's on the list. But when I wear the regular EO #1, I think, wow, this is really nice and wearable. But God, when I pay this much money, I want it to be, you know, I want the animalics to be more. I want the castoreum more. I want it to be extremely challenging. And when I wear his fragrances, I don't get that. I get a very wearable, easy, likable, you know. I want my oud to be barnyard and challenging and fertilizer chips and all of this stuff. And I don't always get that from his scents. So they're nice. I just don't know if they're worth what he is asking, you know? That's my thing. But I would love to smell more of his work. Okay, enough on Ensar. I'll go down the rabbit hole. Next on the list is a Fendi. And this is a Fendi women's fragrance from 1980. Base note says 85. Parfumo says 87. So we'll say 85 to 87. This is basically a floral, spicy chypre fragrance for women. And I am very glad to have this because this is another one of those, if you are just a lover of perfume. I mentioned Poison. I mentioned Dior's Dune. I mentioned Opium earlier. This is one to add to the list. This is a beautiful, gorgeous fragrance. It really is. I mean, it opens up aldehydic and spicy, and you instantly get kind of that heft of rosewood, that pinkish rosewood-like smell. But it's mixed with flowers, and the base is leather and amber and spices and patchouli and wood, sandalwood, cedar, vanilla, oak moss, tonka. But I mean, this is, if you're a lover of chypres, if you like the way that Roja Dove takes these old school chypres and kind of repackages them and sells them for $1,000, if that's kind of your thing, go spend $80 on a vintage bottle of this and thank me later. It is fantastic. Okay, we got to get moving. This is going to be a 2-hour video. Next on the list, we have a Frederic Malle, and this is Iris Poudre. Now, Iris Poudre is a Pierre Bourdon creation, and I've got a couple of these vintage. This is before Frederic Malle sold out to Estee Lauder, and this is came out in 2000. Actually, this is one of the first releases when he founded the brand. It's floral. It almost opens up aldehydic, although there's no aldehydes, with rosewood, carnation, ylang-ylang, bergamot, orange. There is aldehydes in the heart note, excuse me. But I meant to say it opens up aldehydic as soon as you smell, in my opinion. And jasmine, lily of the valley, magnolia, violetta rose, with iris, musk, amber, sandalwood, ebony wood, and vanilla. And the thing about this fragrance is it's very powdery. So that powdery feeling may put some people off, but I like Iris Poudre. It's the vintage is totally different than the new stuff, in my opinion, as well. Okay, next on the list is a Givenchy, and this is Satis de Givenchy. And Satis is a Dominique Ropion masterpiece. Speaking of Frederic Malle, if you're willing to spend, you know, $800, $1,000 on Dominique Ropion's work with Frederic Malle, his oud collection, the night and stuff like that, do yourself a favor and spend $100 on a vintage bottle of Satis. It is out of this world. I mean, you know, it's probably closest to something like Poison, to be honest with you. As far as like the creation of it goes, the heft of this fragrance, it is huge. It's aldehydic, it's floral, there's the rosewood, there's green galbanum, there's the freshness of neroli, there's coconut, real coconut, not like supposed to be castoreum coconut. There's actually this coconut fruity note. There's this bay rum note. There's all kind of high-end ingredients in here. Egyptian rose, tuberose, jasmine, narcissus, ylang-ylang, Florentine iris. It's 80s honey. So this came out in 84. This actually came out before Poison, excuse me. And the base is where the castoreum and the civet comes in. Musk, oak moss, clove, vanilla, patchouli, vetiver. I mean, it is it's a huge bouquet of a fragrance. And again, the new one is probably not as worth it as the vintage. But if you can find these older short ingredient list bottles, you're in for a treat as a perfume lover. You can just sit back and just pay attention to it unfold for hours. It's like being at a never-ending buffet where they just keep bringing you courses of meals. You know, it just keeps on keeping on. Okay, next on the list is a Gucci. And this is a long-lost masculine. I wish I had more juice, but I just cherish, you know, the little bit that I have. This is Gucci Envy. And Envy, you can see my bottle is beat to shit. But Gucci Envy, oh my God. Probably one of the best designers ever made. It's 1998 it came out. Jean Guichard is the perfumer. And it's coriander, pepper, mandarin orange, rosewood. Again, you get a beautiful rosewood in this. Sandalwood, carnation, rose, and jasmine with a base of leather, patchouli, vanilla, and vetiver. And this is a scan-in bottle, I believe. Yeah, it's a scan-in. I don't know what the differences are. All I know is this bottle that I have is, I mean, you know, you can see, I don't know if you can see, but it looks like there's like stuff floating in the juice. See that? It sat for a while, obviously, but it still smells fresh as the day it was made, to me. Oh, that's spicy. And, you know, there's a little bit of ginger that's not listed in the note listing on Parfumo that you get, that I get. And the ginger adds this kind of sprightly, you know, freshness to it. It's just a amazing fragrance. Okay, next on the list is probably one of the rarest fragrances in my collection. I've mentioned it a couple times recently. It's a Guerlain, and this is Bouquet de Fons. And Bouquet de Fons is 1922, 1923 this came out. Oh my God. I wish you guys could smell this. So according to base notes, there is no rosewood note according to Parfumo. But base notes says there's neroli, suede, orris, and jasmine in the top, with iris, marjoram, lavender, amber, carnation, rose, ylang-ylang, geranium, violet, and rosewood in the heart, with a base of musk, costus, leather, tonka, vanilla, tobacco, civet, castoreum, leather, and patchouli. Now, sorry, vetiver and patchouli. I've basically described this fragrance. Now, this is in a Baccarat crystal bottle. These older, I don't know if you can see the Baccarat crystal logo right here. Very rarely do I put plumber's tape on my bottles. Almost never. But this one deserves it. It is so out of this world. Russian Adam said the one that actually comes from the bottle with the fawn's heads on it, that was created by Lalique, this chalice. If you go to base notes, you'll see it. Someone sold him a decant from one of those bottles, and the juice was almost black. He said it was much more animalic than this bottle. He smelled both. Now, I love this. I've never smelled the other one. But I would love to. But again, that's just, I mean, you can only ask for so much, you know. Okay, next on the list we have another Guerlain, and this is Jicky. Now, Jicky is kind of the Guerlain that is known as the birthplace of modern perfumery. This is where perfume stopped being kind of a formation of one smell. Like, it's not, back before Jicky, it was just like Lily of the Valley or Jasmine, you know, or something like that, right? And that was the fragrance, supposed to smell like a jasmine flower. And this is where it became abstract. Jicky was the fragrance that gets credited for that. 1889. You could go with the eau de toilette like I'm holding here, or you could go with the eau de parfum. You can see the notes on the back. Lavender, hesperidic notes, fresh, vanilla, rosemary, bergamot, basil, orris root, patchouli, rose, jasmine, vetiver, civet, benzoin, tonka bean, vanilla, ambergris, frankincense, and then in the base you get rosewood and sandalwood with this leather. And this smells like a fougere. This is a proper fougere, if you will. It's got the lavender, it's got the tonka bean, and it is, some say hard to wear because that civet adds this kind of dirty, old, dusty profile to me. I used to say halitosis note. That offended some people, but it's a good way to describe it, because there is this, you know, almost like brooding, you know, you've slept all night, you haven't brushed your teeth yet type of chord, but it's a beautiful fragrance. Don't let that stop you. This Some people call this a dandy fragrance. I have 2 bottles of the stuff. I have the Eau de Parfum and the Eau de Toilette. They're both amazing. Okay, next on the list is probably the only fragrance, in my opinion, that could maybe dethrone Egoiste as the number 1. When I do this ranking, this will be very close to the top. This is Abbey Rouge. And Abbey Rouge is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. I think it's one of the greatest masculines ever created. Oh, I mean, it combines notes like bergamot, patchouli, vanilla, leather, rosewood in the top. And the rosewood in the top, I think, is maybe one of the best rosewood notes I've ever smelled, ever, right from the get-go. If you like this, you could try to find Ettore Bugatti's 1992 release that smells very much like this. I did a video on Ettore Bugatti. You can check it out. This must be Bugatti's favorite fragrance, because he created a fragrance that smells very similar to Abbey Rouge. This is a Jean-Paul Guerlain masterpiece. God, I mean, for me, this is like you just pick a handful of fragrances to represent what proper designer fragrances should be. This is it. I mean, or pick one that said, Ramsey, you get to pick one fragrance for a season. I would pick this for summer, because this bergamot, lemony kind of, freshness in the open goes well in the Texas heat, but it dries down to this leather, and you almost have to look for it. It doesn't just punch you in the face. Kind of like the leather in Derby hides a little bit behind all of those spicy notes to me. The leather here, obviously it's there. This is the red from Abbey Rouge is basically a homage to the red hunting jackets, or the red, I think, pin or hunting jacket or something from that you would get in the old days once you became a master hunter. And Abbey Rouge is, I mean, what can you say? It's the masculine version of Shalimar, and Shalimar is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. And yes, the rosewood in this is probably the only one that can compete with Egoiste as far as I'm concerned. Okay, next on the list we have a Aramis. And this one I struggle with a little bit. There is rosewood in it, but there's a focus on other things like aldehydes, mace, clary sage, orange, bergamot, pine, oak moss. And I struggle with this a bit. I hunted down the box. So here it is, Equipage from 1970. A Guy Robert creation. Look at the box. Look at the rowers on the front working as a team. Very cool packaging. I love this. And you can see kind of the short ingredient list, if you will. You can see the number right there, matches on the bottle. I think this came from the Middle East, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves. But this is what the original, I think, Equipage looked like. And the cap is almost like this wheel in motion. Very cool. But I want to test the new one, because I hear Hermes made it more wearable. They toned down some of that spicy, almost old man-like accord here. So yes, not one of my favorites, I'll tell you that. But I am glad to have it. I am glad to have it. Okay, next on the list we have a Jacquemus. And this is actually Jacquemus de Jacquemus. And you want to go for the one with the blue writing is what you want. Again, the greatest little perfume shop in the world, Enchanté Perfumes. Shout out to Amouage at Enchanté. My collection would not be, basically, without him. This is spicy, smoky, galbanum, lavender, cardamom, clove, caraway, cinnamon, geranium with rosewood in the heart, oak moss and patchouli in the base, and it's very smoky, spicy and smoky. And I got the new one actually first, and I was like, what the hell is this? Why is everyone hyping this up? Why are all the vintage heads talking about how good Jacquemus de Jacquemus is? The reason the bottle that I have looks like this is a tester bottle. As long as your bottle has blue writing on it, you're good. That's what you want. You want the blue writing Jacquemus de Jacquemus. Yeah, it's smoky, spicy, and you get that, smoke from the get-go. It's amazing. A true 80s classic. and the rosewood is in the heart. Okay, next on the list is a Jacques Bogart, and it's another one I'll tell you to go get a vintage of. This is one man show. You need to find the bottle that basically has the 85 proof down here. I got like 10 of these little minis. They're not even minis, they're like 30 mils. They're 1 fluid ounce, but I got a bunch of them at a great deal. The newer one man show is a travesty, in my opinion. I wouldn't even bother with it. They ought to just discontinue that fragrance. They completely destroyed it. It doesn't have any of the leathery, animalic, castoreum-like notes of the vintage. The new one is all about basically green notes. And this one is completely different. You know, everyone talks about what an animalic beast one-man show is, and I never got it till I got the vintage. Basil, galbanum, bergamot, rosewood, Brazilian rosewood, which I think is like the most sought after. Grapefruit, ylang ylang, jasmine rose, frankincense, Lebanon cedar, casserillia, nutmeg, patchouli, sandalwood, cistus, and labdanum. And the vintage is I mean, you'll completely understand it once you smell the vintage. And the rosewood is in the heart. I'm sorry, in the top. Again, next on the list we have a Kenzo. This is Kenzo Pour Homme from 1981. Believe it or not, this is a aquatic. But it's kind of like an aquatic before the fragrance world went full aquatic. So there is this ozonic. It's almost like, you know, when you are in the water, but you look up at the sky and it's a beautiful blue day and you kind of see just the blue sky above you, and it, you know, it almost looks like you can see the curvature of the earth and this ozonic blue sky feeling above. Even though you're in the water, your focus is up, right? And that's kind of what the watery ozonic notes in this smell like. There's this fennel-like smell with bergamot, nutmeg, clove, sage, geranium, oak moss, patchouli, sandalwood, musk, iris, cedarwood, and rosewood in the base. So kind of like Jickie, the rosewood's in the base here. So if you want an aquatic without being a full aquatic, Kenzo Pour Homme is good. You know, I don't wear it very often, but I am very glad to have it. Okay, it's a little 30 mil. Okay, next on the list we have a By Kilian fragrance. I don't talk about this brand very much because I don't like it very much, to be honest with you. This is really probably the only one that I think is worth it. And this is called Straight to Heaven Extreme. Now, this is outrageous packaging because you can actually lock it with the key. Ridiculous. And so this came out in 2017. It's discontinued. The extreme version is discontinued. I must say that Parfumo actually does not list a Brazilian rosewood note in this, but Base Notes does. So this is dried fruits with rum, patchouli, nutmeg, jasmine, vanilla, cedarwood, white musk, amber, and rosewood, according to Base Notes. And so I would say this is the only By Kilians I've ever smelled that I think is worth a full bottle. Now, I haven't smelled everything that they've done, but a lot of what they've done feels very Initio, Parfum de Marly. You know, it feels like you're paying just to pay. You're paying just to say you spent $500 on a bottle. You know, it doesn't feel like you're really getting very much for your money. This one really jumped out to me. But I've found a potential replacement too that's not as much money. I'll talk about that one day as well. But Straight to Heaven Extreme is probably the only Kilian that I can, you know, feel good about hyping. Okay, next on the list we've got a Lagerfeld, and this is one of my favorite types of 80s scents. It's in line with something like Obsession. And it is Lagerfeld's KL Homme. I pulled out the packaging for you guys. Look at this. Just beautiful. And the box is in pristine condition. And they kept the kind of the marketing of the box with the bottle going together. Cool stuff. KL Homme. I guess it maybe should be... Oh, that's right. Spicy Oriental is basically what this is. Orange, rosewood, bergamot, lemon, cinnamon, patchouli, geranium, jasmine, rose, sandalwood, carnation, benzoin, civet, amber, and musk and vanilla. And there is this boozy, look at the bottle. Doesn't it kind of look like a whiskey glass or decanter or something? There's a little bit of this rosy, boozy type smell. Very ambery, very upset, very 80s, you know. This is extremely 80s. But they've added a little bit more civet here, and it's lovely. For the winter, fantastic. This is a win. I can say that normally these sort of ambery, powdery 80s bombs are probably made more for the winter. But you can wear whatever you want, whenever you want. I've come around to that fact. Okay, next on the list, we've got a Moschino. And this is one that does not get very much talk. My favorite is Moschino Pour Homme from the early 90s, 1990, I believe. This came out in 97. So this is when they're moving to the fresher, you know, easier to wear fragrances. But this is actually a pretty good one. It's not bad. It's called Moschino Uomo. It's actually Uomo? Question mark. But it is Moschino Uomo for men. But they've made it clear that they're saying that this is kind of completely unisex with the question mark there. Kumquat, Brazilian rosewood, hedione, and coriander is what opens up. Now I've got the note listing on the top. It says new hedione with rosewood, transparent coriander, whatever that is, it's transparent, kumquat, Chinese golden orange, with a heart of cyclamen, cinnamon leaves, and clary sage, which agrees with Parfumo. And the bottom is cedarwood, artemisia, new amber wood, which is not a thing Parfumo lists. They just say amber wood, with a sunlight accord and musk. So they list a solar note on Parfumo. But good fragrance for just a fresh, summery, easy to wear. You know, it's discontinued now, believe it or not. So I got this bottle for like $22 or something. This is the big 125 ml. And now that it's discontinued, I'm sure people are probably trying to sell it for $100 or $200, but it's not worth that, honestly. Okay, next on the list is a Nina Ricci fragrance, and this is Lea du Temps. Again, look at the packaging. Look at that. I think it's beautiful. I think that is a beautiful packaging. And just a beautiful idea of the fragrance. This came out right after World War II ended. And so there is a bottle with two kind of peace doves. Doves represent the sign of peace, right? And the idea was whenever a woman would put this on her skin, that she would be spreading peace through the world. And it's a beautiful idea. It's floral, it's powdery, it's got neroli, peach, rosewood, spices, and bergamot in the top, with carnation, lily, ylang-ylang, iris, may, rose, and orchid in the heart, with sandalwood, ambergris, benzoin, moss, musk, cedar, and vetiver. Probably, this is very traditionally feminine, I'll tell you that. Even though it has, you know, these woody notes and stuff like that, it leans very traditionally feminine. I have it in the scent Armory for reference, but it's not something I am really interested in wearing too often, I'll tell you that. Okay, now here's something I am interested in wearing often, and actually this might compete for a top 5 spot when I rank this video. This is Paco Rabanne's Pour Homme. Man, what a fragrance this is. If you can find the vintage bottle with the raised R, do it. There's like 5 or 6 versions of this. As long as you get one with the raised R, you're good. This is a barbershop fougere through and through. It's soapy. Oh, but that rosemary and rosewood combination with clary sage, lavender, tonka, geranium, oak moss, musk, amber, and in the vintages, the honey, animalic honey comes out in the base. It almost starts off smelling like jelly, you know? But, man, so many memories, because this is my old man's signature scent. Still to this day, this is his signature scent. So I've got the Scent Armory Well Fortified with Paco Rabanne Pour Homme. Top 5 rosewood scent, I think, for me. Okay, next on the list is a sport fragrance, and it's probably one of the greatest sport fragrances. It's Polo Sport. Not as great as Antaeus Sport or Boss Sport, but it is a good one. Probably also one of my favorite kind of fresh, aquatic, you know, if you wanted to wear a fresher aquatic, this would be the way to go. You want to go for the one that was made by Cosmere, and the way to tell, outside of just looking at the bottom where it says Cosmere, is you want to, so you can see right there, it says Cosmere. This is silver on the Cosmere bottles. On the newer ones, the Luxury Products LLC, it's like a light plasticky blue. And actually, when I bought this scent originally, I bought it in a Cosmere box. Someone tried to put a Luxury Products LLC bottle in the box thinking I wouldn't catch it. And they did that to the wrong person because I basically blocked that person. I'll never buy from them again. It's a big shop too. And they were like, oh, it was a mistake. I was like, bullshit. Who makes that mistake, you know? I won't put them on blast on here, but needless to say, they're a big shop that sells on eBay. So just be careful. This is aldehydes, mandarin orange, lavender, mint, tarragon, neroli, bergamot, lemon, seagrass, cyclamen, geranium, jasmine, rose, rosewood, ginger, amber, gaiac sandalwood, cedar, and musk. Harry Fremont made this, and this is the scent of like my high school days, basically. This came out in '94, and man, all of the guys wore this shit in the locker rooms, and I never did. Whenever I saw a bunch of people wearing, I always like to go the other direction. I like to go, I'm the fish that likes to swim upstream. So I just kind of ran away from it. But now that I've come back to it and revisited it, a lot of memories with that. Okay, next on the list is a Rochas fragrance, the only Rochas on the list, and this is Femme. One of the greatest fragrances ever created. Again, made for women, but I love Rochas Femme. It's this floral, or it's like a Oriental Chypre. It's like the grandmother of MDCI's. It's like the grandmother of this. Chypre Palatine. If you love that ambery Oriental style, oh fuck, which I do. If you like that ambery Oriental style, check out Rochas Femme. This is a vintage, what they call Parfum de Toilette concentration. You can see right there, Parfum de Toilette. So this is an 80s bottle, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's an 80s bottle. And, so this is plum, peach, apricot with rosewood, bergamot, cinnamon, and lemon in the top with clove, iris, immortelle, jasmine, May rose, and ylang ylang with a heart or a base of amber, benzoin, civet, leather, musk, oak moss, patchouli, sandalwood, and vanilla. This is one of the greatest Edmund Rudnitska fragrances ever created. I think probably when I rank the Edmund Rudnitskas, this will be top 2, you know. Maybe even number 1, but this is probably number 2 for me. What a creation. 1945, this goes all the way back to. Edmund Rudnitska, one of the greatest perfumers of all time. Many consider the greatest. Okay, next on the list is a Romeo Gigli, and this is Gigli per Uomo. Alberto Morillas before Alberto Morillas sold out to the dark side. 1991 this came out. Tarragon, mandarin orange, aldehydes, bergamot, Brazilian rosewood, grapefruit, lavender, lemon tree, and plum in the top. And this is such a, this is such an underrated scent. You know what it is? There is something in the water with how they did things in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. The way they use cinnamon is unlike anything I've ever smelled. It's like, it's like restrictive to that time frame, you know. The cinnamon note in here will remind you a little bit of the cinnamon note in Witness by Jacques Bogart. It'll remind you a little bit of the cinnamon note in Balenciaga Ho Hang, one of the greatest masculines ever created. But then they, even though this is 91, there's still this 80s kind of remnants of the honey, the way they used to use honey in the 80s in here, with that cinnamon, rose, and vanilla, and amber, and styrax, that waxy styrax. It's just, don't let the color of the juice put you off. Yes, there are some green touches, there's tarragon, but this is mostly kind of the warmth of, you know, cinnamon and honey and woods and ambers and stuff like that. And I mean, this proves what Alberto Morillas could do, I guess, with a good brief. I don't know. But this was before he was putting out like 10 fragrances a month either. Okay, next on the list is a 90s baby, end of the 90s, 1999. Believe it or not, discontinued. I couldn't believe it when I heard that. I'm glad to have this little bottle. This is 30 ml bottle. And this is Salvatore Ferragamo's Pour Homme from 1999. Very wearable summer scent. An awesome bottle. I love the twist bottle that they came up with. This is Fig Leaf. Probably one of the best fig fragrances in my collection. And I don't have many, so this is one of the best. Rosewood, caraway, cyclamen, geranium, grapefruit, and neroli with cardamom, carnation, jasmine, orris root, rose, vetiver, cedar, leather, musk, sandalwood, oak moss. Jean-Pierre Marie created this, and I don't know who the hell that is, but they created a fantastic scent. Deserves much more love. You know, now that it's officially discontinued, I used to see these at like TJ Maxx all the time on the discount rack. Now that it's officially discontinued, it might be worth grabbing. I think that's a cool presentation. And I think this might have been, yeah, Jean-Pierre Marie created the original Jaipur for women. Annick Minardo did Jaipur Homme. Jean-Pierre did the original Jaipur for women in 1994. So he, you know, he's done some stuff, but very little. Very, very little. Ode to Orlaine from Orlaine in 92. Stuff I've never heard of. Shahi from Parfums Chypron. But yeah, this is obviously the best thing that old Jean-Pierre created, in my opinion. Okay, next on the list are two Serge Lutens. They are not listed as having rosewood according to Parfumo. These are according to base notes. The first is going to be Féminité du Bois, and I could totally see there being rosewood in here. Bergamot, ginger, cinnamon, God. One of the best woody, spicy fragrances ever created. In fact, so good that many perfumers, if you ask them, hey, what's a fragrance you wish you would have made that you didn't? Féminité du Bois comes up all the time for them. They love this. They think it's a genius composition, and it is. And actually, many people thought that this was a double perfumers from Pierre Bourdon and Christopher Sheldrake. It's actually incorrect. This is a triple perfumer because Serge Lutens himself was involved in creating this fragrance. And actually, you smell this DNA over and over and over again in his fragrances. The way that the cedar note is used in things like cedar, cedra, I guess is what he listed it as. The way that the cedar note is used in cedra. I think there's a tuberose note in here that's very beautiful as well. The way that the cedar note is used in Serge Noir, which he claimed is his personal. He obviously loves that type of woody note, and I do too. I think it's a beautiful creation. The rosewood in the top here is very prominent, with peach, plum, orange blossom, violet, orris, rose, jasmine, ylang ylang, carnation, mace, cedarwood, sandalwood, vanilla, benzoin, musk, patchouli, amber, and civet. And actually, this may sound a little bit blasphemous, but I think that mixture of kind of plum with, you know, ambers and woods and stuff like that, I think there's a little connection, you know? Maybe Féminité du Bois just kind of looked at Roche's Femme for a little bit. And again, this is created by three of some of the greatest perfume minds in the world. It's a very unique fragrance, but it will give you hints, I think, of fragrances gone past. But this kind of, I think, set the stage for... This came out in 1992, and it was originally issued by Shiseido, not Serge Lutens. Shiseido was the one putting out his fragrances. And then I think Serge Lutens repackaged this, you know, 15 years ago or something into his own brand. But one of the all-time great creations. And then this is the one that I'm not so sure about. I don't pick up as much rosewood here. Féminité du Bois I could 100% see. This one I'll just rely on the database. This is Santal Majuscule. So I get a lot more of like sandalwood and cocoa, cacao. Sandalwood and cacao, 100%. Big sandalwood, beautiful sandalwood, actually. One of the best that I think just money can buy. It's so posh. It's so well done. Santal Majuscule is beautiful. And there's also a lovely rose. And base notes claims tonka bean and rosewood. So the rosewood I don't get as much of here, but it might just be kind of a secondary note, but Santal Majuscule is fantastic. And then we have a sample from Strangelove called Fall Into Stars. And I don't remember if I did a video on this one. I think I did. If I did not, I will. Fall Into Stars, I liked. Oops, that's Lost in Flowers. Where's Fall Into Stars? There you are, Fall Into Stars. 2019, this came out. And I like these fragrances. If you are somebody who can just put price aside, okay, just close your eyes to price, and you don't care if you spend $700, $800, $900 on a bottle, these are fantastic. However, when you factor price into it, it's a pretty hard sell, these Strangeloves. But, you know, Dead of Night is, I think, my favorite, but Fall Into Stars, yeah, Dead of Night and Fall Into Stars would compete, I think, for probably my favorite from the brand. But if you are interested in kind of, you know, trying to smell niche perfumery, as they say, this is a good sample set to get. I didn't have to pay for this, luckily, because this was sent to me by Rachel. Very kindly sent me, I think it's like over $100 sample set or something. These fragrances are very expensive. But Fall Into Stars is basically oud, peru balsam, ambrette, beautiful ambrette, fantastic ambrette in this, with henna, saffron, rosewood, labdanum, ginger, bergamot, rose, French jonquil, benzoin from Siam. And it actually reminds me a little bit of Mysterious Oud. I'm wearing it today. There's a little, to me, when I smell these Strangeloves, they remind me a little bit of Bortnikoffs. And since I have so many Bortnikoffs, it's hard for me to justify going and buying a full bottle of something like Fall Into Stars. But it says, love without boundaries. Fall Into Stars propels a mystical experience of boundless wonder as lovers transcend time and space to journey into a parallel universe. Their dazzling fragrance ignites the smoldering flame of their passion, incandescent as a meteor shower that lights up the night. So anyways, I think I have an entire playlist dedicated to Strangelove, but if I don't, I will do a video on that soon, if Fall Into Stars is not one of them, because I do like that fragrance. It's good. Okay. There's almost a chocolatey feel to it, too, if memory serves. Okay, next on the list we have Lapidus Pour Homme from 1987, one of my favorite fragrances of all time. The 80s is just my decade. The 80s is my decade through and through. I love the way they use the honey note. Honey note in this is unbelievable. So this is a vintage bottle. You can see from the short ingredient list. However, don't hesitate to just go buy this. Don't hesitate to just go buy this. This is fantastic, a fantastic reformulation. I actually have a comparison video on the channel if you're interested in what I think between the two. But Lapidus Pour Homme from 87 is, I mean, it is right up there in the Hall of Fame fragrances. For me, I have 3 bottles of this stuff. It's lavender, pineapple. This is pineapple before Aventus. Oh my God. Oh. I mean, I could just ooh and ah over these 80s fragrances all day. Lavender, pineapple, bergamot, juniper, tarragon, basil, lemon in the top, honey, orris, caraway, jasmine, lily of the valley, petitgrain, pine, rose, and rosewood in the heart, with musk, tonka bean, amber, patchouli, sandalwood, tobacco, oak moss, and cedar. It's so deep and rich and, you know, animalic. There's a growl to this fragrance. There's a, you know, there's a growl. And the vintage is great, but even this new version is great. Same thing I kind of feel about Furio. The vintage is great and it is a little bit different, but man, even the new one that they did with Furio and, you know, Lapidus Pour Homme, I don't know how they keep these fragrances in such great shape. But Ted Lapidus and Jacques Bogart should be applauded for that. Okay. Next on the list is a Tiffany fragrance, and this is Tiffany for Men. And this actually shares some similarities to something like Ho Hang and to one that's coming up very soon. It's that citrusy, spicy, accord, that citrus heavy. If you like things like Chanel Pour Monsieur, if you like things like, I've mentioned it before, Dior Eau Sauvage from the 60s, this is kind of in that category, but for the 80s. So they made it more powdery. Remember, the 80s was all about stuff like this. Obsession for Men and KL and this powdery oriental. That was the 80s. And then it started to turn into the end of the decade. You started to get some more of the fresher, Calon, New West and stuff like that by Aramis. But Tiffany for Men is, they took that DNA, and remember, this is Jacques Polge and Francois Demachy, so this is Mr. and Mr. again Chanel back in the day, because they worked as a team, Jacques Polge and Demachy, and so they knew Chanel Pour Monsieur inside and out. So they took that DNA and they made it more powdery, and they added this ambery vanillic kind of base with tonka. But the Rosewood is in the Rosewood is, actually, this is one that Rosewood is not listed on Parfumo. I'm sorry. Let me go to base notes real quick, just so I can keep everything above board. I don't want to lie to you guys. Tiffany. Okay. So, Tiffany for Men, 1989. Did you know there was a Cologne concentrate of this too? I had no clue. Tiffany for Men from 1989. Lemon, tangerine, and rosewood in the top, according to base notes. Interesting. Different note listing. Cardamom, ylang ylang, and nutmeg in the heart, with amber, oak moss, sandalwood, patchouli, and tonka in the base. That lemon tangerine thing in the opening, for sure. Big, huge citrusy opening. Jacques Polge kind of perfected that, but they made it a little bit more powdery. And this is supposed to look like a belt buckle. So if you just imagine, on a man, this is supposed to almost have this belt buckle look. Kind of a cool deal. This is a vintage bottle. They re-released it now under Coty, I think. I don't know what the re-release is like, though, I must say. Okay, next on the list, we have probably another top 5 Rosewood fragrance for me, and this is Oud Wood by Tom Ford. So Oud Wood, to me, should have been called Rosewood, because this is all about the rosewood and the cardamom. That's it. Those are the 2 main notes in here, rosewood and cardamom. There is Sichuan pepper, there's amber, there's oud, there's spices. But rosewood and cardamom, that's what this is. And it is lovely. Look how much I've used. I've used the whole damn bottle. Would I buy a vintage bottle of this? Probably not. Would I like a vintage bottle? Yeah, I kind of would, just because I like the DNA. But if I'm going to spend that much money, I'll just buy an Ensar or an Arise Ladore or a Bortnikoff, Oud Wood is, that black oud nor limbinol molecule is a little hard sell nowadays for me, because I have so many. Okay, next on the list we have a Valentino, and this is Very Valentino from 1999. This is very similar to this. If you know Dolce & Gabbana by Man, you'll kind of see some similarities between these two, in my humble opinion. I think By Man is better, actually. I would take By Man over Very Valentino any day of the week, but this is kind of this spicy, woody, Italian herbal thing. You get sage, anise, nutmeg, coriander, tobacco, lavender, Brazilian rosewood, carnation, caraway, musk, amber, sandalwood, cedar, and resins in the base. These 2 kind of fill the same role. They're both discontinued. They're both beautiful lavender fragrances, in my opinion. Great for the office. This has a little bit more going on for it, but I actually like the way, the notes are more, I think, in Very Valentino, but I think I like the way By Man wears more. I like, oh man, it's so posh. It is it worth $500 or $600 for a bottle? No, absolutely not. But if you get it at a decent price, it's definitely one to grab. Okay, Next on the list is a decant that I'm going to turn into a full bottle one day because this is great stuff. This is from the house of Van Cleef and Arpels, and this is called Gem. And if you want a spicy floral chypre from the 80s that smells like a fragrance from the 40s, Roche Femme, these are so close. Look at the juice color too. You know, they are so close in smell too. And Van Cleef & Arpels Gem. I have to give a special shout out to Klein for sending me this decant. He's in Japan and he gets vintage fragrances at a great deal. So he's discovered some amazing stuff. This is one of them. Gem is, I need a bottle of this stuff, honestly, before prices go through the roof. Coriander, cardamom, myrtle, cypress, plum, rosewood, and peach. Clove, jasmine, tuberose, carnation, orris rose, ylang and iris, oak moss, vetiver, amber, civet, patchouli, and vanilla. And I'll do a video on this before it is all gone. But what a treat it's been getting to know Gem by Van Cleef & Arpels. My kind of feminine targeted fragrance. Okay, 2 left. Next on the list we have Versace versus Uomo. Actually, my favorite Versace. I like this more than Dreamer. I like this more than Versace L'Homme. I like this more than, you know, Versace Pour Homme Oud Noir. I'll take this. This is my favorite Versace because it takes that late 80s, you know, I mentioned Zeno and Heritage and Escada Pour Homme. It takes that and it makes it Italian. So that adds a ton of citruses and like Petitgrain, which is like the sticks and twigs of the orange tree. And so you get mandarin orange, bergamot, lemon, neroli, lime, and Petitgrain with this green touch, this green aura around it. And then you get Brazilian rosewood and rosewood. So again, this will probably be top 5 in the rosewood category with carnation, coriander, jasmine, and orris root. And then a base of amber, vanilla, sandalwood, tonka bean, benzoin, cedar, and musk. But if you like that late 80s, early 90s DNA before the aquatic wave kind of came and washed everything away, this deserves much more love than it gets. This is an amazing fragrance. I think the best Versace ever did, personally. And yes, I do have a box of this. The box is somewhere as well. I couldn't find it, though. I got to look up in the attic again for more boxes. Okay. And finally, the final fragrance. And it's from 1971. And it's actually from the exact same perfumer, Raymond Chaillan, that made Balenciaga's Ho Hang. This is YSL Pour Homme. So these two are, you know, brothers. Again, Balenciaga's Ho Hang and YSL Pour Homme are brothers. And this is a continuation of that citrusy style. You get lemon and lemon vervain and Petitgrain and bergamot and lavender. And the Brazilian rosewood is in the heart of YSL Pour Homme. This is discontinued, by the way. Rosemary, clary sage, thyme, carnation, geranium, marjoram, patchouli, cedar, musk, sandalwood, tonka bean, vetiver, and amber. So if you made me wear this citrusy style, I would choose these. Actually, I would probably choose this. I think Ho Hang is my preferred, you know, of that citrus style, if you will. But this is very, very good. Also, I've recently added Loewe Pour Homme to the bunch, and that's a beautiful lemon, citrusy lemon scent as well. So not my favorite DNA. I'll usually begrudgingly reach for it when it's very, very hot and it's weather specific. But special shout out to, you know, these type of citrus fragrances. I was going to say the person's name, actually, that sold me some of these harder to find fragrances for me, like Loewe Pour Homme, but he wants to remain anonymous, so I won't out him. But thank you very much. If you ever watch this, you know who you are. Okay, that's my Rosewood video, an hour and a half in. I hope you appreciated it. Let me know what your favorites are. Let me know, you know, if there's some Rosewood fragrances you love that I did not talk about today. Do like the video. It helps the stupid YouTube algorithm, and you know, the algorithm is what we rely on to get the video out to others. Frag heads across the world watch this. I feel like there's a lot of people that deserve to be in our little fragrance family, in our little fragrance town. I get to be the mayor of the town, but it's our fragrance town. You know, it's everyone's, and I want more people who are like us to join. And you know, I feel like for every 1,000 people that join, only one of them is a jerk. 999 of them are fantastic, and so I'll take those odds every single time. And you know, I want this video to get out to the people who love it. So let's try to finish it at an hour and a half. I appreciate everyone watching. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.